Well, a very good morning to you, Desiree, and of course, I'm where it's supposedly Parliament. I'll just step out of the shot so that you can see. We are at the City Hall. Remember, Parliament was burnt down earlier this year, so they've had to find an alternative place to conduct business of Parliament. Already the members of the Parliament are gathering from all parties represented here, of course, to look into that debate that has really been much anticipated about Phala Phala. But of course, we'll speak to a range of people, the different political parties, the governing party, everyone who has an interest in this. In fact, to start off today's discussion around this matter is the leader of the official opposition, John Steenhuisen, who will give us his take as he prepares to walk into this building here at 2 o'clock to debate the report that was presented by the retired judge, Mzwandile Mbeje. Mr. Steenhuisen, this is a very interesting part about our country and about our parliament and our political system in general. As the DA, what is your approach to this debate today?
Well, our approach to the debate is not how it's being portrayed in some circles as determining the guilt or innocence of the president. Today's debate is about whether the report from the Section 89 committee proceeds to the next process in terms of the rules for a full investigation, where the president will be given ample opportunity to be able to put his case, and we will be able to widen the scope and call witnesses. We will be supporting the motion going forward today because we do believe that it is important that Parliament does examine this matter. Originally, we wanted an ad hoc committee that was denied. We believe that now needs to move to the next stage so that we can get to the bottom of what really happened at Phala Phala once and for all and move on.
The ANC has made it clear that they are not voting for this report. They actually will vote against it, and they're in the majority. So what do you do once the vote is done and then they vote to reject it?
Well, this is not the first time we've been here. The ANC used the same majority to protect Jacob Zuma in 16 motions of no confidence and 1 impeachment crisis. And they were rebuked by the Zondo Commission quite heavily for using the tyranny of their majority to protect a president from the scrutiny that is required of Parliament to hold him accountable. I would have thought the ANC would have learnt some important lessons from those 9 so-called wasted years, and how you should never abuse a majority in Parliament to shield people who have got some tough questions to answer. And whether Mr. Ramaphosa likes it or not, he has some tough questions to answer.
But do you call that an abuse of Parliament, or it's simply an exercise of democracy? They were voted by their party to be here, and then of course they are doing exactly what they were sent here for.
But they've also got a duty to uphold the Constitution and to be the voice of the people of South Africa. They have got a duty to uphold the Constitution and all other law of the Republic. Here we have a report by an independent panel, a retired Chief Justice, that has come back to Parliament in terms of its own rules and said, we believe that there's further scrutiny that's required. Not that the President's guilty or innocent, but there needs to be further inquiry. I think Parliament would be irrational, unreasonable, and MPs would be failing in their duty if they didn't allow it to go to the next phase, for us to do that investigation, find out the facts, and then make a decision thereafter about how we proceed as the people's representatives.
You are saying the MPs will be considered to be failing in their duties if they vote against it. Given what we know, what the ANC has said, clearly that may be a foregone conclusion. What is your next step as the opposition in the event they vote against it?
Well, if they vote against it, our Chief Whip will immediately retable our request for an ad hoc committee to be established. Because what we cannot allow is for this Phala Phala matter just to end here. There are very serious questions the President has to answer, even on his own version. Even on his own version, he admits he knew about the money on the 26th of December. It was in his house, stuffed into a couch till at least the 9th of February. We also know from the President's own version that he did instruct the Parliamentary Protection Services, or their to protect Cyril Ramaphosa, the president, not Cyril Ramaphosa, the businessman, to go and pursue money that was owing to one of his business interests. Those are two things the president cannot escape from. And we need answers as to why that took place and why he felt it was appropriate. And we need to hold him accountable for that. Whether that's an impeachable offence or not, that's what the committee needs to decide.
How far are you? Have you received a response from the US on the letter that you wrote, I think, to FBI about the foreign currency? So just update us on that.
No, we haven't. We've received no official response from the South African Reserve Bank. We've received no official accounting about what happened from the South African Revenue Service. And I think we're still waiting for the Public Protector's report as a result of our complaint of the conflict of interest that arose between Ramaphosa, the president, and Ramaphosa, the businessman, and the fusion of those two roles. We believe that all of these agencies will in time produce those reports, and we believe they will only amplify the fact that there does need to be a further scrutiny of what really went on at Phala Phala.
What's your gut feel? Do you think the president is guilty?
I think on his own account he's guilty of a conflict of interest and on exchange control violations, because he's admitted the money was there from the 26th of December in his knowledge to the 9th of February. That's way outside the period for which you're supposed to return or bank that particular foreign currency. He admits he instructed Wali. He admits he never went to a police station and opened a charge. He used the Presidential Protection Unit to pursue money that was owing to one of his business interests. I think that there's very clearly a conflict of interest there, and there's very clearly exchange control violation. Whether that's an impeachable offence is something that the committee is going to have to transverse.
Do you want him to be impeached for this?
Well, I think the committee needs to get to the bottom of it. The president has
As the DA?
Well, we want a fair process to be undertaken in Parliament to allow us to gather the facts where we can then make a considered viewpoint about whether impeachment is appropriate in this matter. At the moment, we can't do it because we don't have all the facts. The report that was prepared by the Section 89 panel wasn't able to call witnesses. It was confined to the papers. It wasn't able to call the president. It wasn't able to call Wali Ruda. We think all of those things need to happen so that Parliament can then be in a position to make an informed decision, which is why today this committee must proceed.
Do you still have confidence in the president? I know as the president of the Republic, now I'm speaking to John Steenhuisen, a South African, who his president is President Ramaphosa. Do you still have confidence in him as your president until 2024?
I don't have confidence because he's gone into hiding in the midst of one of the worst electricity crises, a crisis of confidence in his own government, and an unemployment crisis of gargantuan proportions. You couldn't get the man off TV during the coronavirus pandemic. Where has he? He hasn't spoken about Eskom, he hasn't spoken about Phala Phala, he hasn't spoken about any of these issues. He is hiding from the people of South Africa. And in my book, that is poor leadership.
So the opposition met and said the official opposition must table a motion of no confidence, but you've declined that. Why?
We declined it because what you don't want to do in a situation like this is have a gratuitous feeding frenzy and a calling all pockets approach. You've got to do things strategically and methodologically, and you've got to follow the process. So I said, given the fact that there's a Section 89 process underway, it does not make sense to table a motion of no confidence because it is similar in substance. The rule of anticipation would be breached in our parliamentary terms, and I think we should let this process finish before we decide what the next step is.
Okay, the reason I'm asking like this, Mr. Steenhuisen, is because the ANC has basically said we're going to vote against this. So, in my view, which means it's a non-starter in inverted commas. So, the next logical step is a motion of no confidence. And then they have asked you as the opposition leader to do it, and then you are saying no.
No, I said we're not prepared to do it while this process is still live. When the Section 89 process is concluded, in whatever way it would, we will revisit that particular decision. But what I said is you can't run the two processes concurrently because they're similar in nature. I also think you're being very optimistic that the ANC's whip is going to hold today. The ANC RET faction, the rebels, know that this is the only time that they can weaken the president. He's going to win at his conference. If they can get this through today by breaking ranks and voting with the opposition, we could have the Section 89 process continuing.
Okay, we're just concluding now with you, so I don't want to hold you further. So the Section 89 will probably conclude this evening or this afternoon, and then assuming the ANC will vote against it. So tomorrow, if the opposition come together and say, DA, we're sponsoring a motion of no confidence, will you lead it?
Well, I think it's very difficult to do so in the absence of the evidence. So I would like to see an ad hoc committee being created first to do you've got to get the information. You've got to have a reason to bring in the motion of no confidence. But we will meet with the other opposition parties. We will thrash the issue out and we will decide what the next best step is, not for ourselves, but for South Africa and for upholding the principle of constitutional accountability of the executive to Parliament.
Well, thanks, Mr.
Thank you so much.
Well, that is the leader of the opposition, the official opposition, John Steenhuisen, really saying they are here to make sure that the processes are followed. And of course, on the issue of the motion of no confidence, which the official opposition parties have basically said, as the official opposition, please lead us into the motion of no confidence. He's saying, not yet, we'll wait for the processes. And I did tell you, Desiree, that there would be other people that we'll be speaking to from various political parties. Right now, my colleague, Bulelani Philip, is standing by with the IFP, where we'll also get to hear what is their take on this.
Well, thank you so much, Mzwandile. Of course, I'm going to be joined shortly by the Deputy President of the IFP, Mr. Mzwandile Mbeje. Of course, the official opposition also, getting into the businesses in terms of how they will respond to this report that will be tabled this afternoon. Of course, the opposition parties seem to be united in terms of the approach and the way that they will be voting. Mzwandile Mbeje from the IFP, thank you so much for your time. Firstly, as the IFP, how do you intend to respond to this independent panel report that will be debated this afternoon?
As the IFP, we are going to support the report because we've got no reason not to support the report, because this process is a parliamentary process where we asked former Justice Ngobo to actually go there and find out if there is indeed a case that the President should answer. They've come back to us to say, yes, the President has a case to answer. So for today, we are having to accept that report and then take the next step forward after that.
Now, as the opposition parties, do you think you will be able to muster the necessary numbers in order to get this report approved and adopted by the House?
We expect so, for one reason, that as we are here now, regardless of whether we're coming from different political parties, but we are honourable members of Parliament, so we will do that which is right. We'll vote using our conscience and not vote for that which is politically correct. It doesn't matter from which party that I come from, but the fact of the matter is the President has the case to answer, and we should vote and accept the report and then take the next step forward. It's that process then that will decide whether the President is sinking or he's exonerated.
Now, the response by the President to take that report on judicial review in the Constitutional Court, does that not throw the spanner in the works that you may end up debating a report that may be set aside by the courts?
Not necessarily. I don't think so, because you will remember that this is a total independent arm of the state, so this is a parliamentary process. But by actually trying to appeal that it's not considered, is his right, but we believe that he actually jumped the gun. He was supposed to wait for the Parliament to do it, because the only report that I think he was supposed to challenge, if need be, is the report that will emanate after this process, where now every person who is involved, every evidence has been tested, and then we say, here is the matter. Because for now, he has to just account as the President, he has to answer some questions, and everybody who may be implicated should be called on to come forth and then give whatever evidence that is there. But for now, the only thing that the President was supposed to do is wait, accept the report, and then if he's got a different view on the report, that platform now, the one that will unfold, is the one where he was supposed to actually bring whatever evidence that will exonerate him.
So would you think this position that has been taken by the ANC, that they should reject this report based on that particular judicial review, is misplaced?
Yes, very much so. I think so. It's very much misplaced. But I do think that even if the ANC was as a political party outside Parliament, they are at liberty to take whatever decision. But as members of Parliament, honourable members, I think they will do that which is correct.
Lastly, before I let you go, what do you make of the voting method that will be used this afternoon?
We don't have a problem with whatever method, any method that will actually make sure that we do our work today, we accept it. Doesn't matter whether it's secret ballot or show of hand or whatever form, because we believe that members are honorable members. They will vote with their conscience. They will do that which people have actually elected them to come and do in Parliament.
All right, thank you so much, Nkosi Mzamo Buthelezi, the Deputy President of the IFP, just giving us his party's view on how they will be responding to that independent panel report that will be tabled this afternoon. For more reaction, I'm going to cross back to Mzwai.
Well, thank you very much, Bulelani, and of course, we'll continue to bring you rolling coverage from Parliament to give you the views really of different people. In fact, as much as we are speaking to the opposition leaders, so we are also trying to get hold of the governing party members. So we've been speaking, seeing them even off camera, so asking them, so what is their mood? And most of them are basically saying for now, they just want to get into the caucus there and have the meeting and have their views shared there. And of course, after that, they'll let us know so what exactly will happen. But right now, I'm with the leader of the Freedom Front Plus, Peter Groenewald, who will also share his views on how it will pan out. In fact, one of the things that I may just say is that you don't necessarily, especially in this session, need 400 members. You just need to be able to form a quorum, and then a quorum to consider a report of this nature. And I think he may correct me, a quorum would need something like 134 members to be present. But of course, people who are in the know, the leader here of the Freedom Front Plus will be able to substantiate that. So I understand you guys are ready, but you don't necessarily have to be all of you here, 400.
No, because we must remember, this is, like they say, it's a question to the House. Now, it's different rules. For instance, when it is a bill, an amendment of a bill, of course, then the quorum is 50% of the members, that's 200. But then the rules determines when it is only a question put to the House, it requires a quorum of only a third of the 400, that's 134 members, and then the majority vote prevails. In other words, it's not that we need 201 votes, for instance, to reject the report like the ANC want to do it. If there is a quorum of 134 people or members, and the majority votes to accept the report, then it is accepted.
Oh, well, you've seen quite a strong showing from a number of parliamentarians from different parties. So clearly very ready to debate this matter. As the Freedom Front Plus, what are you going to tell the South Africans about the report that Judge Zondo presented?
Well, it's quite simple, actually. Firstly, the President is accountable to the Parliament, to the legislative arm. In actually, if he wants to do all other terms and going to court and everything, I say that he's actually undermining the Parliament of South Africa, and it appears that he does not want to account to Parliament. We saw in the Zondo Commission, quite a lot was said about accountability of the executive towards Parliament. And now there's an opportunity for the President to say to the people, I am willing to account to Parliament. And it's quite simple in this sense that he admitted there was foreign currency in his Phala Phala home, and it's not about what the amount is. And there are simple questions asked. Well, did you declare it? Secondly, did you pay VAT on that? It's simple questions, it's common sense. And therefore, I really think that the President, if he really wanted to show the people of South Africa that he put South Africa first, then he would say, yes, I am willing to appear before a committee. Or if he didn't want to do that, I said in a previous debate, come forward, take the people of South Africa in your confidence and give them the facts. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, but this process is run by you as parliamentarians. Of course, he's part of the executive, you hold him accountable, so it's your responsibility as parliamentarians. In the event you as parliamentarians vote against it, so what are you going to do as Freedom Front Plus members of parliament?
We're going to support the report, if that is your question.
I'm saying if in the event it's voted against, as the ANC has indicated.
Well, no, after that we will have to see how the other institutions act in terms of their investigations. We must remember that first the Hawks are investigating, the public protector is investigating, and we say that we want those reports. In fact, it should have already been available so that we can see what the facts are. And depending on that, then we can take further steps, like, for instance, you can then come forward with a motion of no confidence. But again, we must remember that at this moment, the ANC is misusing its majority to actually frustrate Parliament and actually undermining democracy. Let's take, for instance, this report. Yes, they're going to vote against it. We will see what the final outcome is going to be. That's misuse of their political power. They are not accountable to the people, and therefore the ANC members of Parliament must know, if they vote against this report today, then they are not accountable to the people of South Africa, and they must remember then that the voters must reject the ANC.
Would you allow your members, as the Freedom Front Plus, to vote against, I'm not talking about this motion, but against the motion or against the directives of the party? I mean, you are here as a member of the political party. Should there be an issue, and then some of your members say, we actually are voting with the ANC, would you take action against those? Or would you say, okay, it's good?
Well, it depends what the subject is.
Okay, let's talk about today's subject. So if some of your members decide to vote with the ANC, what will you do?
If they vote with the ANC today?
Yes.
Well, I know they will not vote with the ANC.
In the event that happens, what would you do?
Well, it's a free choice then. It's as simple as that. Because we didn't, for instance, say that you are obliged to vote for that. Yes, this is the view of the party, and they all agreed and said, yes, we will accept.
Okay, where I'm going with this is that we are in a party system, the party dictates what happens. So are you saying in the Freedom Front Plus, so someone can vote as and they see fit?
Yes, what I want to say is there may be some issues where the party will say it's a free choice of the members who they want and what they want to vote. That is true, you get certain issues like that. But then, of course, it's in all political parties, some matters that this is the policy of the party, and if you are a member of the party and you write that specific policy, then of course you have to vote with and in line with that policy. But there may be some issues.
Okay, in this instance, I think the ANC has decided to take that this is a party matter.
Well, I think it's not a good party matter to say that you must now toe the line of the party, because this is a matter about the president who have to account, and there can no way be a vote to say that he's not accountable. Let me take another example. Say, for instance, that there must be a decision taken against me as leader. For instance, I did something wrong. Then it is for the members to decide for themselves. I think if you want to be accountable to the Parliament, then you must be accountable. But if you say, like the president, that he did nothing wrong, so what's the problem?
But that's their view, that well, having looked at the report and they found flaws, they said, okay, there may be some issues, but if we vote for it, so now it will not really be what we think it's supposed to happen. So my question basically is, so are they within their rights as the ANC to tell their members to vote in a particular way?
Well, it's common in all political parties. Yes, they can say that, but I say it's wrong. That we must remember. And we look
democracy, people chose them and they knew them?
Well, that is democracy. And one of the problems in the democracy today is that if members, for instance, if their membership are terminated by the party, then they are not allowed to be members of Parliament. That's Section 47 of the Constitution. I say that there should be more specifics about that specific clause or article in the Constitution, where there should be exceptions, where a person votes against the will of its party that he or she will not be thrown out of Parliament.
Until and unless that is done, I guess it is what it is.
It is what it is, but I want to say again, I really blame the President that again he took a decision against the interest of South Africa, but in the best interest of the ANC. And therefore, it is wrong, and I am sure that in the end they will pay the price for this.
So, but you will abide by whatever decision that will come out of you as a collective of MPs having voted, right?
Well, we have to abide. If the result is that they reject it, what can we can't say no, that is not the rest. But what we do say is that after that, it's not the end of the story. We wait for the reports, and we must also remember, it's not so sure that the President will win its constitutional case. It may easily happen that the Constitution can say, listen, the process is not completed, you must first wait to complete it. It can also say that he's not going to interfere with the legislative process like he did in a decision with the Speaker, who determined the Speaker can decide whether it's a vote, a secret vote or not. Therefore, and the question is then, what is the President then going to do? His credibility is at stake here, the credibility of South Africa is at stake here, and I say again, he said he did nothing wrong. Why then come forward, take the people of South Africa in your confidence and say, listen, these are the facts, these are my answers. It was as simple as that.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Welcome.
Well, you've heard it there for yourself. He's basically saying, as much as he would want the ANC members to vote with them, he is aware that this is a party system where the party ordinarily gives directive, and then at some point he feels there needs to be amendment so that people are able to do that. In fact, one of the things Desiree and Naledi that came out was that as we, in this instance, there doesn't need to be 400 members because they are looking into a committee report. So what it basically means is that you need to be able to form a quorum, and a quorum in this nature, you need a third of the members. So if you calculate from the 400 members, you need about 134. And from that 134, for the report to pass, so it will need 50 plus. And I think that will be 68. I'm not very good at mathematics, because I think 67 will be 134, and then obviously you need to go over by one more vote. So this is where we are at the moment. So we'll be bringing you a number of different voices to giving you a broader perspective. And as much as this is a parliamentary matter, it is so much about politics. We are just 3 days to the conference of the ANC. We have been seeing people walking in, some of them who've been very vocal about what the president should do. In fact, I spoke off camera to Minister Lindiwe Sisulu. I wanted to find out how is she going to vote. She said, you know what, I'm going into a meeting now, so after the meeting I'll be able. But as matters stand, it does appear that they will be told by the party how to go about with this matter. So keep watching, we'll be bringing you more and more.